Hey guys,
welcome back to our channel,
Plots with a Twist.
We discuss books
amongst other things, and Asia just said something blasphemous. She said she's on ballpoint pens.
She's too good for a ballpoint pen. She all about Muji this,
gel pen
that, Sharpie
paper
gel
made,
pen.
Sharpie gel pen. Yeah,
and she's like, give me back to the basics. Give me a good crystal big pen, and it's gonna take me
got
away.
some, but like
Yeah,
that's not my go-to. I'll use them.
I like them.
It's like, where's my gel pen? Oh, here's this crystal big. I guess I need to write. Let me go ahead and use this. All right, well, we are back with our wrap up today. Asia has been reading.
What?
I just want to know she hasn't. It's sarcasm. See,
if you have to say it's sarcasm, then it's not good.
Well, I've been reading this month, and so we're going to get into what we finished for the month of March, and then what we'll be reading for April. Right? It's April.
Yeah.
Let's get into it.
All right, so just go ahead with all your books, because
you got one book, so I'll do two, and then
how many did you read this month?
Asia had a struggle month. I have 4.
Okay.
So I'll start with Good Girl, Bad Blood by Holly Jackson.
Never heard of her.
I read her first book.
Don't know her. No, I was playing. What was her first book?
A Good Girl's Guide to Murder.
She's so cliche, but go ahead.
Anyway, so this is the second installment in the series. So I think it's 3 books.
Okay, series.
So Pippa Fitz and Moby is back. After the popular, okay, let me stop reading my notes.
Not Pippa Fitz.
Pippa Fitz and Moby.
That's a lot.
So she's her dad is like African or something, and her stepdad rather. And so yeah, she has a hyphenated last name, so they always say it like throughout the book. But anywho, she's back. She after the first book or the events of the first book, she turned that into a podcast. So just to take us down memory lane, the first book she was revisiting a case that happened in her town where she didn't believe the person who was eventually convicted or suspected of a murder. She didn't believe that they actually did it, so she went through all the old evidence and asked, people questions, and pretty much came up with a different alternative to the actual, she basically solved the crime. So now she's turned that into a podcast, has a huge platform now. People are reaching out to sponsor her, and she's like, no, I'm done. I almost lost everything last year. I can't do it again. But one of her close friends comes to her when his older brother goes missing, and tries to enlist her help. So initially she's reluctant to help him, but eventually she does utilize her platform to help him, and then goes down a similar road of trying to figure out what happened with him, who are these people that he turns out to be connected to, and what is that person's intent. So, boom. So I like the pacing of the book. So I like the pacing of the first one. It was very much like mystery, Nancy Drew, what's going on, red herring here, oh, it could be this person. So you're very much speculating who could have done it and why and what and all that as you're reading throughout, because pieces of the puzzle become, apparent as you're reading. So I really enjoyed that part of it. Let me see. But I just continue to enjoy how she approaches the book. I did initially think it was going to be like a copy and paste of the first book, which I guess it kind of was, but in a different way. So it's not a negative that she took a similar formula, because she still made it unique and on its own. So yeah, it was just a really enjoyable story. It had some unexpected twists, which you enjoy, which I feel like you can enjoy. The only thing I would say I disliked about it is that I felt like this one was a little dark. It had a little dark turn that I wasn't expecting. Like the first one was a little bit cutesy. It had some moments, but you weren't like, oh my God, like this is an adult, whatever, because you could very much tell it's a young adult. But this one had a little bit of darkness to it. I was like, hold up. So I don't want to say that's a dislike. I just wasn't really expecting it, especially just coming off the first one. It just threw me. And I think that's really it. had a little bit more oomph. I enjoyed the first one more, but I think that's to be expected in the series. You're gonna compare them and be like, oh, the first one had this, but the second one had this. So yeah, but both were very enjoyable. So okay, next. You got this?
No. I don't know if I want to read about no octopus.
So I read Remarkably Bright Creatures by Shelby Van Pelt. So that was about an octopus. And so Marcellus, that was his name. So Marcellus is after his capture, he's counting his days of capture, and it's told chapters are told from his perspective. So he's living in his tank and gets out and explores, but he's talking about how smart he is and how dumb humans are and how they don't know that he's just, he knows everything. And so that's kind of coming from his perspective. But the story focuses in on Tova. Tova is an elderly woman who works at the aquarium as the cleaner, and she pretty much speaks to all the sea creatures and just is at towards the not end of her life, but just like she's working. All her friends are telling her she doesn't need to work because she's in her 70s, and pretty much she just goes day by day and really doesn't have a strong purpose. She lost her son when he was young, and her husband passed years prior, so she's really on her own, and so just has a routine around just working and doing things. But when she gets news that her brother, this is not a spoiler, her brother passes away, who she's estranged from, she kind of comes to terms or comes face to face with what will she do with her life, who is going to take care of her, and tries to make arrangements for that. But it also shifts perspective to Cameron. Cameron is kind of a down on his luck, kind of mid-20s guy where everything happens to him and it's his fault, but it's not his fault. The world is just against him, and from his perspective. And so he was essentially abandoned by his mother. She had some issues, so he was raised by his aunt, and he finds this old picture of his mother and this old class ring, and then goes on this journey to the Seattle, where I think it's Seattle or some town around Seattle, where the aquarium is, and gets a job there, and pretty much tries to find who he thinks is his father from this photo, because the guy turns out to be this real estate developer. And so their stories kind of overlap, and it turns out Marcellus knows something about Tova's lost son and is trying to help her put the pieces together along the way as she comes to visit him. So it was cute, Asia.
Okay, I may or may not check it out.
It was so cute. So it gives me like reading list vibes. Like, that's the feels it gives you, where it's like these two people, they're unlikely friends. And I really just enjoyed how the author put little pieces, and this person knows this, but this person doesn't know this, but you as a reader know everything that's going on. So I just like how you weren't oblivious while the characters were. So you had those moments where you're like, I can't wait till they find out this, or I can't wait till they know this. So I just like how it was very layered. I also like how she connected everybody together in a roundabout way. Like, I don't want to say it was one little small thing, but I don't even want to say that. But pretty much everyone ends up being connected in some type of way. And so I just really enjoyed that. I didn't really dislike a lot. I guess there was moments where I was just like, man, somebody say it. Like, because it would be like a conversation going, and then something would happen, so the conversation stopped. But that conversation, that person was about to say something important. And then the next day, same thing happened. So it's just like moments where that is like, ugh. Like, y'all stop interrupting. Y'all just have to talk. Y'all need to talk to figure this thing out. So that was a little frustrating, but it added to the story, so it wasn't that big of a deal. But okay, talk about your one book.
You had to say one book. But, okay, so I remember last wrap up TBR, I told you guys that I had read some of Celeste Ng's Our Missing Hearts. Our Missing Hearts. Is that how you say it?
Oh.
Our Missing Hearts.
Okay.
So this followed Bird. I think his name is Noah. I probably made that up. So it follows Bird and his dad. They're basically like in this dystopic world where there's a thing in place called Pact. That to me it sounds like an anti-Asian agenda in the world. So I guess like something happened where people are just not feeling like the stuff coming in from China and from different Asian countries, and so it's kind of like they have this new laws governed by this thing called Pact, basically. And so Bird is I believe half Asian or half Chinese, and then half white American, and so he stays with his dad. His mom ends up getting like banished away because of her involvement with the anti-Pacters or whatever. And so basically Bird gets old enough where he's only like 12, I think, too. And he basically wonders where his mom is and like why she left. But meanwhile, everybody calling his mom a traitor and this and that. We don't speak about her. We don't speak about this. His friends are disappearing. Kids are being taken from their homes if they feel like they're not like with Pact. You either with Pact or you against it. And if you're against it, you gotta go. Mm-hmm. So Bird sets off on his own little journey to find his mom because he gets a letter. This letter basically saying like from his mom, like a cryptic message. And so he sets off by himself, mind you, to go find his mom. And he's like 12 years old. And on his journey, he just is kind of like going through all the things in his head, what happened leading up to this. If his mom, like, did she just leave him? Does she think about him? You know, he's just, you know, he's a 12-year-old boy. I wonder where his mom went. So, and that's kind of where the story goes without giving too much. It was just a really cute story. I feel like
cute.
It was sad in moments, but not. It did have like sad moments, especially towards the end. But it was sad in moments. But I say it was cute because you're literally in the mind of kind of like a child who's kind of like trying to figure out and doesn't really know, you know. But he's like putting things together the best way he knows how, and so. You know, he left his dad behind, and his dad who does care about him, but you know, his dad is just trying to lay low and keep the peace so that, you know, he's not taken away by the Pact people or whatever, given their involvement with his mom and stuff. So it was just, like I said before, it wasn't what I expected, you know, coming from the author of Little Fires Everywhere. It's definitely a whole different story, but she does give like I listened to it, and she gives like a kind of a background at the end of like where kind of the idea for the book came from. And yeah, I just really enjoyed it. It was definitely gave you some things to think about. And also, y'all know I'm a big on like, oh, the ending. I didn't like the ending if it didn't like kind of finalize the way I wanted it to. But the ending, it was a little open-ended, but I was satisfied. I was like, okay. I can see this. I see where this is going. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. I didn't expect it when I first started listening to it. I was like, I don't know about this. This is not what I was thinking this was. But you get the way she tells the story, you want to know what happens, and you want to see, you know, Bird, his little feelings. Like you just want to hug him and like, you know, make him feel better and see what's going on. So yeah, it was good. I really enjoyed it. My one little book. It was worth it.
Okay. All right, so last two, bear with me. So I read Stone Blind by Natalie Haynes. So this was like an anticipated book for January, for top of the year or whatnot. I had never heard of Natalie Haynes, but I saw that she does have numerous books.
Okay, that's gonna be my next question.
Yeah, which okay. So she dabbles in like Greek mythology, Greek retelling, things like that from what I gather. I don't know if all her books are that, but that's what this one is about. So this one is about the story of Medusa. So Medusa is mortal. So I learned so much about, I'll say this. She does her own spin. So if you read this book and you like, oh, that's not how it happened, it's not exact. And Greek mythology is different variation. Like people don't know what happened. They weren't there. So okay. So this one goes into the story of Medusa. Pretty much she's mortal. Her parents left her with her sisters, her Gorgon sisters. Don't ask me their names because it's Stetna and Ariali, I don't know.
All the Greek names.
Yeah, but they raised her. They were Gorgons. They don't really have emotions, things like that. But they found themselves really loving Medusa and really raising her up to be, you know, this mortal girl. And so it switches perspectives to various characters. So it goes to Perseus, who we know, this is not a spoiler, I hope it's not, who we know eventually, you know, beheads Medusa. Did y'all know that?
I don't know, but I feel like I knew she was beheaded though.
Yeah. Spoiler. But that's, y'all should know Medusa was beheaded. But so it goes into his perspective. It goes to Athene, which is another, it's Athena or Athene. You know, it just depends on what way you want to pronounce it. But Athene, she's, you know, the daughter of Zeus. Zeus and his first wife, who, you know, Hera was his wife, but he had a wife before, and she was born from his forehead. So it goes into their perspectives and really just all these other circulating stories that relate to what eventually happens to Medusa. Like, how does she eventually become a what is considered a monster if she was born mortal, things like that. So it just goes into events surrounding just, you know, the legend of and legacy of Medusa, as well as Athene and Perseus, and some other notable characters. So with that, I really enjoyed the story. I liked her approach. I liked how she told it, and I liked the additional details she added, because she made it more of a, you want to empathize with Medusa, because of course in Greek mythology, Medusa is a villain. But she told it from the perspective of she's just a girl living in her world, you know, kind of that. And so I really like her approach. She even had chapters where she broke the fourth wall and spoke directly to the reader, like, no, you're not about to think Perseus is a hero. He's not a hero. He's a little brat. Da, 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 da. Like, she had like little chapters like that, where you're like, okay, she's talking to me. Okay. So I just really liked, especially in the audiobook, and she narrated the audiobook, I just really liked kind of how she presented the characters and just how she presented the story. What I dislike, I really wished I would have more time with Medusa. Like, the story was around Medusa, but not many chapters really focused on her. They focused on her siblings. They focused on, you know, Perseus. They focused on Athene. They focused on Poseidon. Like, all these, you know, other things.
With the Greek retellings, a lot of Greek, it's like that. Like, they it'll be about the person, but then it's like everything around.
Yeah, them. Which I don't mind, but because I rarely hear about Medusa, I would have wanted to know more. But I guess if she's just on an island, sitting there,
she ain't doing
looking at the sand, enjoying the water, then she got cursed because she, you know, so she ain't like the water no more because Poseidon was the reader. She got cursed and all this. Like, okay, so she's probably not up to much. So I guess that's why. But I would be interested for any author to like develop a story out of, you know, maybe you don't know much, like Cersei. Like, you could just easily say she was on an island, you know, but that Madeline Miller made it, you know, more of a story. So I would have been interested, not to say she needed to do that, but I just would have been more interested to see a little bit more about Medusa, instead of the characters surrounding her and the ultimate impact of what they, you know, what that had on her. Other than that, yeah, some of the details she added, it just depends on if you're a diehard like Greek mythology person. You may not enjoy that, but I didn't mind it. So I thought it was a cool story, and I wouldn't mind checking out some of her other books. So, okay, last but not least was Maame. I don't know. That's kind of it was first of all, it was a British person. Like it was an English accent, and so, or a British accent, and so that already, y'all know I can't. So, but it's Ghanaian. Okay. So this story is about Maddie or Maame. Madeline is her full name. She's 25, and she's living with her father, taking care of her ailing father. He has Parkinson's, And so pretty much it's just her, him, and his caretaker. And so she goes to work. She just lives her life. She's not really happy, but she doesn't know any other way to be. And so she's thoroughly disappointed by her mother and her brother. Her mother goes to Ghana every other year. So she goes to Ghana for a year, comes back for a year, something like that. And this has been ongoing since Maddie was a young girl. So she's really grown up, self-sufficient. Her brother, he kind of recognized his parents weren't there for him. So he just kind of started couch crashing, going off with his friends. And so really she had to be Maame. I'm probably offending everybody in the world, but she's really had to be this because this her nickname translates to like responsible one, woman, you know, kind of whatever. And that kind of plays out into her personal life because she's always wanted to carry the burden of taking care of her family, and she's also carrying the burden of kind of being there for her friends and not really showing up for herself. So basically when her mom returns back from Ghana, she encourages her to go ahead and move out and live her life because her mom recognizes that she hasn't been there, and she wants her to live her life while also still wanting her to support the family because she'll ask her for money, things like that. So when Maddie finally moves out, she gets to kind of live her life for the first time, but quickly, you know, tragedy strikes her family. So she's having to kind of reconcile with what roles her family have placed on her, how that's really impact how she's been able to live, and ultimately like what is that doing for her mental health. So overall this story was compared to Queenie, and I can see the similarities, but this is way better. I'm serious, like way better. So this had like a good flow. It had, you know, a target. It had a purpose. Like the overall.
You're a Queenie hater though, so.
I didn't mind Queenie.
A Queenie hater.
I just know it wasn't its best. It had its challenges, and so for this to be compared to that, I can see the comparison. It's very humorous. Queenie was humorous, so it's very humorous, very charming story. You really enjoy the voice of Maddie. She's a very relatable and likable character. She's kind of a late bloomer, so it just chronicles her experiences, and it's kind of funny as she goes through some of these things. But it's like she's naive, but she's not overly naive where you're like, come on, girl. You know, whatever. But at the same time, it's like as she navigates situationships, as she navigates drinking, you know, even for the first time, weed brownies, you know, it's kind of like a little relatable and a little funny when it comes to just her overall experiences. I just really enjoyed the story. I thought it was really good. Once I really got into it, I just wanted to keep listening to it. I thought it was really, it handled the kind of family dynamic and mental health conversation very well, because I think what a problem for me and Queenie, and I'm trying not to compare them, but a problem for me and Queenie was like she needed help and her family didn't recognize she needed help and still continue not to recognize she needed help. And I think in this, I like the receptiveness of the people around her and that support system she had. And it wasn't that she was by herself. She isolated herself because she was trying to be there for everybody else. So I just thought it was just a little bit more successful. It was just a great story overall. I didn't really dislike anything. The pacing of the character development, I guess you can kind of nitpick at, because she did go from knowing nothing to really knowing nothing and then knowing everything. I don't know. It's just her development to get to a point where she knows she should be doing better. You can kind of get in there and kind of have some issues with, but other than that, yeah, I think it was good. I mean, there was some moments I wanted to know more about. I felt like a little bit unresolved, but I would hope that means there's another book, because I want to know more about like her family dynamic, because it got to a point where she was okay, but I still want to know a little bit more about everything else. So that was it. Okay. You'll like that one. I promise.
It's on my list. So okay, that leads into what are we reading for this month?
Why'd I close my book? How many you got?
You know I always have several, but what am I gonna actually read though?
Okay, I got 5.
I think I have 3.
Okay, so I'll start.
Okay.
So I plan to read If I Survive You by Johnathan Escoffery. So I planned on reading that for March, but I just ran out of time. I don't know. Stone Blind took me a little longer to finish. Than it was either Stone Blind or Remarkably Bright Creatures. One of them took a little bit longer to finish than I anticipated. So I just ran out of time to get to it. So yeah, I do want to read that. So I am going to roll it over to April.
Okay. All right, so I'll just start off with the one that you just mentioned. I'm going to read Maame.
Maame.
Whatever. I'm going to read that, and I already have it saved and in here, so it's definitely going to get read this month. So
I think you will like that one. And let us know if y'all want to review once we finish. Okay, so I'm going to read. This is a shocker because normally Asia has to nudge me to read a romance. But look at me picking a romance on my own. And it's a series. The Fine Print by Lauren Asher. I just kept seeing, I like the cover, first of all. And I just kept seeing it circulating everywhere. And I'm like, yes. I'm new-ish to the actual genre of romance, but you know, I want to see what else is out there. I'm curious now, so yeah, I'm gonna do that one.
Okay, another one on my list is I think I just picked this because I saw it like on a list somewhere. Or did you tell me about this?
Yeah, I read that. Yeah, because you want to read her other book.
Yeah, so A Flicker in the Dark by Stacy Willingham. It's a thriller, I believe, and yeah, that's all I remember and that I could see from.
That's all you need to remember.
Something about a killer. Ooh, yeah, I know I love that. Okay, so yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to read Hungry Ghost by Kevin Jared Hosein. So I think he's a Caribbean author. So I follow this Caribbean booktuber, and she recommended it, and I've seen other folks recommend it. They said the writing is kind of unique, so I'm just interested and curious to see about it. Just heard great things about it. I did see people who like didn't really get on with the writing, like kind of say, okay, I couldn't get into it, but I'll see. I saw more positive than anything else. So and it's not a long book, so.
Okay, and the only other one that I'm going to try to read, of course if something else comes available, I'm going to try to read it, but is Stone Blind.
Look at you.
By the lady.
Natalie Haynes.
Natalie Haynes.
Wait,
I couldn't find it.
Is it in English?
It better be.
Yeah.
Yes, in English.
Okay. Prescribed is
I know,
good
they'll trick you. They will trick you, so yeah, that's on the list.
Okay, well I have two more. One for sure. So I've been seeing this circulating, and it seems like my type of book. I think it's about a woman and she gets a divorce or something like that, and I don't know, but it's called Really Good Actually by Monica Heisy. I think I said her name. Yeah, the cover is cute too, so that's why I picked that up. And like I said, I saw good things. And then your man, Alex Finlay, his latest What Have We Done? I plan to check that out. I think that's on Scribd. So you should go ahead and add it. But other than that, that's it. I was going to try to eyeball read a book again. I was going to try to do Rule of Wolves since I did King of Scars, but that's too much.
It's too much for you right now?
That's too much right now.
Oh, they do have it. Okay, boom. Definitely.
So now you got 4. All right.
So
let us know. Let us know what you all are reading. Comment down below, like this video, subscribe, ring the bell, and we'll be back next time. Bye.